Welcome to the Everything Rad podcast with your host, Ricky Garvey.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Everything Rad. This is a new venture for me, and it's pretty exciting. I'm hoping that I get to talk to a lot of rad musicians about their kind of work, music balance, the music industry, their local scene, and all that fun stuff. This past weekend, I got to sit down with Leandro Barrientos of Castle Pines, which ironically is now our band. We had this scheduled for a while, so it kind of fell into a funny place where I'm now playing for Castle Pines. But we had a cool conversation, talked about his history, talked about the Corona, California music scene, and his future plans for Castle Pines. So I hope you like what you hear. If you want to keep up with this podcast, head on over to rickygarvey.com and click on the Everything Rad podcast. You should be able to get it on any podcast app like Stitcher or just iTunes. So thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, that capo right over there. You let me borrow that for a long time.
I have a few of them.
You bastard.
I was like, yeah, just keep it, dude. We might hear some planes coming over.
That's fine. Don't breathe through your nose.
I'm gonna just taste it with my mouth.
You have a drone?
It's badass, dude.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks for having me, Ricky. I
Yeah,
appreciate
dude, of course.
this.
So I am sitting here with Leandro Barrientos of claim to fame Corona, California band, Castle Pines.
Kellogg cereal.
Hell
Eaters.
yeah. Totally. Let's start off with your history.
All right.
How did you get to where you are today? Did your parents play music in your house growing up? Like, why did you pick up that guitar on day one?
First time I ever picked up a guitar, I think I was 13. And my mom she played like folk church music.
All right.
Like in the 80s, early 80s before she met my dad. So 82, 83, around there. And it was like an old nylon string. And I remember before my parents couldn't afford MTV anymore, I watched like a Nirvana Unplugged video, and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
The Nirvana Unplugged video?
The Nirvana Unplugged video.
It's
not
classic.
the one that, you know, before he blew his fucking head off, right?
We can edit that part out.
Well, it's debated, you know. A lot of people don't think he did kill himself.
Yeah.
Some people think Courtney Love chartered the whole thing, like a flight to the Bahamas.
I like the better story, because I follow with that category, like with Elliott Smith, too.
Yeah,
Like,
where his girlfriend stabbed him, or he stabbed himself.
that his girlfriend did it.
Yeah. Well, you know that he was in a tuxedo when they found him, right?
I didn't know that. But
He was in a full suit, and from the source that I heard it from, there was 10 stabs. You got to imagine stabbing yourself, or at least 10 times. You know, pulling it out and then stabbing yourself in the chest again.
Yeah, that's...
I'm not that good at music. I'm not going to kill myself.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is anymore.
To do that? To actually follow through with something?
To love something so much where they just like, yep, I did what I have to do. I'm going to kill myself now.
Yeah, I think I can, like, stop there. Like, I don't love anything enough to follow through.
Yeah.
With not even that, just to follow through with anything.
Yeah. No, it comes to the point of, like, of not necessarily following through with something. Because you could do something not very well. You could just, to your ability, get it done.
At least they finally finished something, though.
Yeah. You didn't like Basement on a Hill?
No, I loved everything.
All
I'm just
right.
giving him a hard time. So, Leandro came over. My wife made him a dinner.
Delicious. Thank you, Kira, by the way. She made...
She's not going to hear this.
Well, it
She might.
doesn't matter.
She might.
Or to our female listeners out there that delve into the culinary arts, as I do. She fried her chicken with some Parmesan on each side, and then she put it into the oven.
So, let's get back on track.
Okay, yeah. With tangents, man.
Your mom had the guitar.
Mom had
early
the guitar.
80s.
Early 80s. I was born in 87. I decided couldn't afford to play sports. I really wanted to play football because of I was a bigger, heavier set kid growing up. And I was like, oh man, they called me the Train in one time when I was playing. They just called me the Train because I was fat. So I found my mom's guitar. I actually asked my uncle for it, and then all the music inside of the guitar case was all worship music from like 80s. So like Our God is an Awesome God, and
like what else is there? Like
that's all.
But that's the main thing. Everyone knows
90s,
that.
Late 80s Christian music, like
let everything that has breath praise the Lord.
As the deer
I could sing of your love forever.
Yeah,
the classics,
the good stuff. And so I learned all those, and I figured out how to play chords. And throughout high school, I actually didn't really focus on music. And then after I got out of high school, I realized how much I really enjoyed it. And it was something that it made me happy. So I was like, I'd rather do this than pursue any other endeavor in my life. Which to my own self-absolution and demise has probably led me down paths that most people or I shouldn't have gone down, but I did, and it made me a bigger person and a stronger person and comfortable with myself. It made me self-realize into comfortable in being who I am and not ashamed of who I am. And I don't like saying that I'm a musician. I don't like calling myself a musician. I think it's a cop out because everyone's like, oh well, I'm a musician. It's like do you think Albert Einstein called himself a astrophysicist? No, he was a mathematician that was trying to figure out things. And I'm not comparing myself to Albert Einstein. Oh God,
you totally
edit
could if you
out.
want to.
Edit that out.
If you want to, you can.
The reason why, I've been a waiter. I started working when I was 13 in a restaurant, and I've been working in a restaurant since I was 13. I still work at the same restaurant that I've been working at for 8 years. Pays the bills, and my boss knows, the whole management team knows that I'm going to school for music, that I am a musician. They give me the nights off that I need to, but my main source of income is not music. Yeah. So that makes me not a musician? Oh, fuck you. I am a musician. I put that as a priority. I'm not selfishly chasing after this and pushing people aside and treating people poorly because I want to be a musician. No, it's something. The whole thing comes down to the idea of like when people say, "Oh, it's my passion." If you were to look up the definition in Greek of what passion means, passion means the amount of suffering you're willing to endure to get something that you want. Passion means I'm willing to, take this pain so that I can eventually have this. Props Mel Gibson, Passion of the Christ, 2004. 2003, right?
Well, I would say pre Mel Gibson discussion that was actually pretty beautiful, man. I think, like you mentioned earlier, I think we have the biggest sacrifices to make as musicians or artists in general. I know plenty that have given up a lot to get to where they're at, but like I mentioned, you're in a band called Castle Pines. Ironically, I am too now, as of last weekend.
Which is weird because we scheduled this this podcast interview, way before we asked you to be in the band. So
it's been on my plate for a while, and it just kind of fell into place. So before I came into the band, Nick, your brother, was playing guitar.
You came on the band and you came in the band.
Yeah, I mean, yes and yes. Mm-hmm. So with what you were growing up with your mom and the guitar and the church music, where did Nick fit into all of that? Was he right behind you? Did he catch on because you were catching on to music too, or why did he get involved in music? And
Nick
was he behind in all this?
No.
What was his timeline?
He was actually on the forefront. He always was. As far as talent goes, my brother will always be faster and a more talented musician than I am, technicality wise. But then that's putting the idea of what being a musician is in a box, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Does being a musician mean constitute you? All I do is make music all the time. I would be extremely hard pressed if I was just making music all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And not doing anything else. Like, all I do is go in front of a piano every day, and I have to write, music for this bullshit TV show on KTLA about who's solving a murder, and the dog is solving the murders because he's a psychic dog. That's a tangent. I'm sorry.
Is that a real show?
No, I just made that up.
Like, I should watch. It's on Netflix.
It sounds good.
Sounds pretty dope.
I actually took that from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. At the very end of it, was it Pet Detective or?
So, back to where you're at with music. What was the defining moment in your life that you thought to yourself, I would need to be in a band or a musician or be on stage or share my art? Like, what was, whether it was a song or an event you went to or a concert or a movie you watched or a CD someone gave you?
First movie I ever watched. Okay, I could break it down into 2 singular events, and I'm going to do it quick. Number 1, I'm going to sound like a super duper uber hipster. Royal Tenenbaums. I was 15 years old. I was living in Spain with my grandma, Abuela, I love you. I don't know if you'll ever hear this. My Aunt Cynthia, and she was a missionary in Spain, a Christian missionary, and she was working with inner city youth in Barcelona. And we went to it wasn't a Blockbuster. It was like basically you rented a movie for a day. We rented the Royal Tenenbaums, watched that movie. My grandma and my aunt went to bed. I replayed the movie, sat in front of the TV. I didn't have headphones, and I put the volume on at like 2, and I listened to the whole thing. And it had Elliott Smith, it had Nick Drake, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, just pretty much like the underdogs of not what commercial music was throughout the 60s and 70s. So that was number 1. I was like, that's how you connect to someone. I didn't really realize what it was as far as communication. Like, that's how you fucking talk to someone. That's how you connect to someone. And I think music's probably the easiest way to communicate to someone as far as like making a fucking concrete connection. Like, you don't really have to say what you're telling me or whatever you went through, but I get it. I understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Number 2, it was 2008. It was the first year of Outside Lands. Radiohead headline night 1. And I went there with a girl I had been dating for a really long time. Saw Radiohead, went there with some friends. The third night, I saw Broken Social Scene open up, Andrew Bird, and then Wilco.
Nice.
While Wilco is playing, they were in the middle of a Billy Bragg cover song, and then they went into Impossible Germany.
What year is this?
2008, I think, was the first year that they did Outside Lands.
So had you been in any bands prior to this?
I'd been in a punk band in high school, but I didn't really take it seriously. It was more so like, I'm in a band, like something cool to say, but it wasn't like something that I identified with and like put as part of my characteristics.
What did being in a band then prior to that versus being in a band now? Like, what did it mean to you then? Was it just like some party thing to do?
Yeah, it was more so a social commodity as far as for myself. Like, it furthered my own agenda of saying like, well, I do this and I do that, and by the way, I'm in a band. That alone, like, when you're in high school, you're like, he's in a band. What does he play? Does he play guitar? Does he play drums? Kind of gives you this like social currency. It's like, oh my god, you're in a band. That was before that I actually saw a real band do real band shit, and I was like, holy fucking crap! Like, that's a real band doing real band shit. I want to do that, and I think we are kind of playing into that right now, as far as like this feigned or faked idea of real band shit. People like to look the part and not play the part.
So it was a way for you to kind of just fit in at the time. And
in high school, yeah. And then I saw Jeff Tweedy, if you do hear this ever in your entire life, Andrew Bird. Y'all changed my life, motherfuckers.
And so that was it. After that, how long was it until you and Nick kind of got together and said, let's do
long time
an actual project?
My brother Nick, he was playing in he played in a metal band, then he played in a post-punk band. Well, all right, for the real hardcore punk fans, it wasn't a post-punk band. It was a post-screamo hardcore punk band.
What band was this?
No Bragging Rights.
He was in No Bragging Rights.
Yeah, he toured with No Bragging Rights and Warped Tour 2000. Is it 2007?
Those were, and they still are, Inland Empire heroes.
Yeah. And you were talking about the ability as far as like playing what defines a really good musician. My brother's always been better than me at technical shit, and that's why he got picked up by a lot of bands. I always got passed by the wayside, but I stuck with it. I enjoyed music and having these, especially experiencing fucking Radiohead. You have these like almost transcendental experiences where you're just like, I think I'm doing the right thing and it feels good.
Yeah, you're in the right direction and you're on the right path.
I'm not trying to, change anyone's life. I'm just probably trying to save myself. And it feels good and I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, I forget who mentioned to me that it's crazy what shitty punk rock can do for people. I know for me it's changed my life and kind of put me to where I'm at, and I wouldn't be here without a lot of that shitty punk rock. So I think you feel the same way. But what do we do about the current state of the actual music industry? What's the issue with it compared to 10 years ago? How do we fix it? Can we fix it, or do we just adapt to it and just accept it for what it is?
There's this idea that a lot of people are bitter about music is doing this, music is doing that. There's a reason music's popular. It's popular because a lot of people like it. Does that mean the majority of people are dumb and they don't understand the concepts behind, these highball concepts behind music? No. You're just not writing something that's relevant to people in that state of being or, that certain time. It's just, it hasn't changed since the 60s, before that, the 50s. Music moves in a sense of social paradigm shifts, which kind of reflect each other in a very almost like, I'm going to talk about what's wrong with that part of society at the same time I'm going to reflect back on myself. And that's why people get into music, because it creates these subgenres and these kind of microcultures of people that can relate to something.
These cliques, yeah.
That's almost, you can't really comprehend it in words, but you can understand it. You have these people that are talking about specific,
social issues and obstacles and yeah.
The thing with music nowadays is that no different than 40, 50 years ago. People are like, oh, I'm a musician, I just bought a guitar at Guitar Center, I guess that makes me a musician. What defines a musician nowadays? If you were to go back 400 years ago, a musician was someone that wrote music for money that was consigned by royalty or the church or someone that was it was someone that was so much on top of their craft. It was like a blacksmith or a goldsmith. They really knew how to fucking, enable and contort the elements that they really knew, and to make something beautiful and artistic out of it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you have enough money, you're not going to a mountain and mining gold or tin or copper out of a mountain. You're going to Best Buy, buying Pro Tools and a MacBook, and you can figure out what quantizing and a beat is, and you can make a beat, and therefore you are a musician. Does that constitute a musician? Did you contribute socially? Did you make something that is of value to your community? That's up to debate.
Yeah. Do you think it's harder, though, to actually make it as a musician today versus 20 years ago?
No. It's the same thing.
What about the whole, pay-to-play concept, where you really can't go to a bar once a week and make money? Is that an issue, or do you think it's on the artist to be creative in the ways they make money?
You said it right there in your second part. You gotta, you're going to pay to play if you're not bringing in people to the bar. The reason they have overhead, they have lights they got to pay for, they got to keep their fryer on, they got to pay their bartender to pour the shitty wine for the shitty people that come in to see the shitty band that's going to play. It's all, conjugal. Everyone agrees to this really shitty idea of how bad music is right now. Come see my shitty band play at this shitty bar that no one goes to, but we're going to be there between 7 and 7:30 on this evening. That's really shitty hours because it's during traffic time, but we're trying to bring we're trying to bring people in to spend money at the bar. You might get a DUI on the way home.
Yeah.
That's what the idea of being a musician is,
these days. Yeah. So what's next for Castle Pines? I guess what's next for us? That's what I'm really asking.
Shit, man. Right now, I mean, we're just. I wouldn't say we're riding on the haunches of anything because we haven't really had any commercial success. But as far as a band that actually writes music, I'd love to continue. Every guy in Castle Pines has a job, has responsibilities, and they take their outer experiences that they've had, and they come to this place that is a nonverbal agreement of we're going to kind of have a conversation without talking, and it becomes a musical thing, and it becomes something that translates, and people like it. So I like to continue to do that, like continue writing music, and eventually, get to the point where we can, pee on people like R. Kelly.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it. Where can people find your music? I know obviously it's on Spotify.
Spotify, iTunes.
What's the preferred social media platform for people to find out what's next?
You can go on to castlepinesmusic.com. That will send you towards all of our mediums of musical release. Or you can go on to just good old Facebook, Instagram. We are at Castle Pines. CASTLEPINES. Don't confuse the vowels because it would be penis, and that's not.
Castle Penis is never.
That's how Justin Bieber's wang got out.
Which has been the point of discussion for the entire day. I can't wait to bleep every single F-bomb.
Is this like Christian one?
Thank you for listening to the Everything Rad podcast. For more information, visit www.rickygarvey.com.